Mohamed Boutjdir is a professor at the NYU Department of Medicine, also at the SUNY Downstate Medical Center, and Associate Chief of Staff for Research and Development at the VA New York Harbor Healthcare Systems. His research interest is in cardiovascular diseases, but his accomplishments in the Moroccan culture shine back to 2002, when he was knighted by His Majesty the King of Morocco, Mohamed VI, with the Order of the Throne. He was the president for 2 terms at the Moroccan Association of Researchers and Scholars, and Dr. Boutjdir is here to discuss his achievements and work in the Moroccan culture. Doctor, thank you for being with us and taking time from your obviously very, very busy schedule.
It's a pleasure.
Let me go right to the issue at hand and focus on what we've been discussing with our 2 previous guests. This referendum is clearly a historic referendum that took place in Morocco on July 1st. What is your take on why over 98% of the Moroccan population that's eligible to vote voted for this referendum?
Well, as was mentioned previously by the ambassador and the fellow journalists from the Sahara, the Moroccan reforms actually started in 1999, right after the King of Morocco, Mohamed VI, took power. And what we see now is actually just an enhancement of other reforms that probably were part of what has happened in the region. And I think for any Moroccans, especially those of us who are living abroad, realize that this is really going to move the country in the right direction. And I assume that belief in the move forward that made these people go out and vote. And I actually, Friday, I went myself to Manhattan and I expressed my vote. And I did review the Constitution, and I'm sure we'll have the opportunity to talk a little bit more about it.
Absolutely. Do you think that given some of the powers that the king has surrendered as a result of this referendum, do you foresee any kind of a split between the king's powers that he has retained and the powers that are now going to be given to a new prime minister? Well,
I am in the view of looking at the glass half full.
Okay.
So I am confident that based on actually the achievements of what the King Mohamed VI has done in the last 10, 15 years, that I do not anticipate any problems. Rather, I think the prime minister, with the additional power that he's going to have in hand, and as you mentioned earlier, the prime minister will be elected from the majority party,
right.
and there are other reforms in the parliament. So I would perceive that as the way it's happening here in the United States, where you have the legislative body working closely with the prime minister. So I don't see that as a handicap or anything, but rather as a positive step moving forward.
Now, given that the referendum incorporated additional involvement and additional benefits, if you will, to the women of the country, where do you see the women's movement in Morocco going? To leadership positions, to more influential positions within the government and within the country itself?
Well, according to the current constitution, the women will have to play a major role in the political scene, as well as in social and economic venues. You might probably know that the first thing the King Mohamed VI did when he took power is to reform what they call mudawana, which is actually the social status of the women. So this started years back, and I think now the fact that political parties will have to have some kind of quota for women participation will be really something now that that is put on the table. It's no longer something that you only encourage, but now it's going to be part of the Constitution, and every party will have to include women and their participation in the change via the political process.
And therefore the enhancement of overall human rights.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, like everywhere else, the women constitute over half the population, and I think their contribution and participation is primordial.
And it's a young country too, isn't it?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Now, in terms of the population itself, can you share with us a picture of what that population is made up of? I know one of the major segments of the population is the Berber,
well,
correct?
I actually have to say that I am extremely delighted that the Amazigh or the Berber language will be part, along with the Arabic, as an official language of Morocco,
Right.
for the simple reason that I'm myself from Berber origin.
Okay.
So I was very delighted that that change occurred, although I must say that I live in New York for the last 23 years, and I go back to Morocco once a year. I have noticed that we have a Berber TV. There is a Berber radio way back, maybe the last 5, 6 years. And now bringing up the Berber language to the status of an official language, I think that will really help the already existing cross-pollination of cultures between the two major cultures in Morocco.
So that inclusion of recognizing Berber as one of the official languages of Morocco, did that surprise you?
I honestly, as I mentioned, because I've seen that you know, it was included in the network TV in Morocco about 6 years ago. There have been talks in the media about it. I think this was for me a natural progression of the events that already started in the last couple of years. And I think I just want to put things into context, because I know you asked your previous speakers about the fact what makes Morocco so unique.
Yes.
And I think one, in my view, again, although as I said, I live in the US, but I follow closely what's going on in Morocco, is the fact that Morocco has undertaken, I think with Mohamed VI, has undertaken these reforms way ahead of the other countries in the region. And this perfect example is what you just mentioned now about the status of the women and the Amazigh culture. So they already started. Now we reached a point where that matured in a way that it's becoming part of the new constitution, and it's something that nobody can change.
Do you think, Doctor, that because of the geographical location of Morocco, that aside from the Muslim, the Arabic influence, that it is also it's also embraced some European influence?
Well, exactly. Morocco is about 9 miles from Europe, 14 kilometers for the metric people. But Morocco has this long history, as you probably know. Tangier, which is located in completely northwest side of Morocco, has been an international city for so many years, and that really allowed all the European, not only European Mediterranean neighborhood, but also you know, the Americas, to come and exchange culture, and thus, you know, embed the Moroccans with this outside culture. And again, from reading the New York Times, it seems that Morocco now is being considered, and probably in the future, as being part of the European Union when time comes, because of the close proximity.
And I guess that's the genesis of my question, why, you know, whether or not there was any influence. But from your perspective, Doctor, and given your involvement within, you know, with the Moroccan culture and a lot of the things that you have spearheaded, what do you see will begin to happen as a result of this referendum in Morocco? What will it really mean to the country and the people of Morocco?
I think Morocco, with these anticipated significant reforms, will move towards the rule of law, and will move towards you know, freedom of press, which already exists, but enhanced further.
Sure.
The independence of judiciary system, and altogether, will just do nothing but move Morocco in the right direction. And combined with the fact that you know, education is an important fact that also needs to be to tag along all these reforms.
Sure, sure.
So that Morocco can move forward and join. By the way, I know I want to say this, join the emerging countries. In fact, one of the most important rating agencies in the United States that rates the economic status of countries has rated Morocco among only other 2 countries in Africa as an emerging country, and that's Egypt and South Africa. So the political change, along with the economic change that's already in place and recognized by outside institutions, I think you know, the path is already there for Morocco to move in the right direction and towards further economic development, the well-being of the people, and
in many ways, I guess, be somewhat of a prototype for some of the other Arabic countries, right?
Why not? In fact, just by the recent reforms, there have been talks about the fact that, you know, what's happening in the region, Morocco can serve as a pilot program for them to consider.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, Doctor, again, thank you so very much for your time. I know how busy you are, given all of your responsibilities.
I have one more thing that I'd like to add. I just want, because I have a 14-year-old son, and one day he was doing a project on Morocco, and I told him, did you know that Morocco is the first country that recognized the independence of the United States? He said, no, no. So I told him, let's Google it. He brought his laptop, and we Googled it. It's right there. So Morocco is the first country that recognized the independence of the United States in 1777. Only a year after that, Holland joined in, and then another year or 2, England and other countries. So I think this is a very important fact to put in place.
It is, and I guess it's not surprising then how come the United States was so supportive of the movements of Morocco at this time. Thank you again, Doctor, so much for your time, and please